Welcome back. So imagine if everybody that you spoke to, you were able to build amazing rapport with. In this video, I'm going to show you, I don't even know, maybe 10 different ways how you can build immediate rapport with people to be able to make more friends, to be able to make more business connections, to be able to do pretty much whatever you want and influence people positively so that you can build connection with them in a bit of a psychopathic way. Because you have to learn how to do it. Some people instinctively know how to build rapport. Those people could be psychopaths, but mostly it's because they're really nice people and they just know how to, give that warmth off and how to do the things I'm about to share with you today. But if not, you can learn it and you can use it to your advantage. So, ways to build rapport with people like a psycho. Number one, actively listen and show an interest in them and ask questions about them. People love to talk about themselves and people love to know that they're cared about, essentially. And if you're asking questions about them, it's because you're intrigued to learn more about them. And this is actually the essence of coaching in itself. But yeah, make sure the conversation isn't all about you. Listen intently to understand what they're saying to you so that you can use that in later questioning, conversation, and repeat back to them and show them that you've been listening as well, rather than asking them the question for the sake of it. Oh, how you doing? And then they say, oh, I'm having a really bit of a shit day. And you're like, oh, cool. So what are you having for lunch? That's not active listening. How are you? I've had a bit of a shit day. Oh, why? What's happened? Oh, okay. And listen. And then later on, oh, so is that why you had is that why you're doing that this weekend to get away from, what happened earlier? Like, oh, he remembered. He was listening. So first one is listen. I mean, there's actually quite a few in here, so you're getting multiple per point, but listen, question, show that you care, and repeat back to them later what you've heard, which will show that you care. Now, this isn't the psychopath stuff. This is more the genuine stuff. The second one is maintain strong eye contact. There's something very powerful about eye gazing. Actually, in Bali, I've done it before, and in a Tony Robbins event, where you meet a stranger, you clasp their hands, and you stare directly into their eyes for a good strong minute. And it feels so uncomfortable, and you want to look away. But at the end of it, you know that person on a level that there is no words to describe. You know their soul, I guess. You've intimately connected with that person through their eyes. A lot of people are used to sort of speaking and looking away because it feels uncomfortable. But if you maintain eye contact whilst you're talking and listening to somebody, it again shows that you care and you listen, but it's also very intimate. So you're starting to become intimate with them. So this is moving into a little bit of the psychopath stuff, because now you're deliberately creating rapport, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but could be seen as manipulative. Another trick, it's not really a trick, right? But you got to learn these things if you want to. I mean, there's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? And it's one of the best-selling books of all time. Influence people. We need people to do some things for us. We can't do it all alone. And we have to build rapport and make friends with people for them to be able to do some of the things that we want them to do for us. But it doesn't mean we won't give them things in return. It doesn't mean it's all greedy and gain. But there are certain things that salesmen use, or businessmen use, or people that want to get a date use. Another thing that you can do, and this has to be very subtle, and you've got to be very careful with this one because they mustn't notice it. But when you first meet them, look into their eyes so they're distracted, and a big smile, and touch their forearm so gently that their subconscious feels it, but they don't notice. Now that one is definitely a bit psycho. What this does is this builds a physical touch connection. Now, certain cultures might find that inappropriate, certain people might find that inappropriate, but if done in a very subtle, very humble, and in a very caring way. I mean, some people can go in for a full hug, can't they? I'm a hugger sometimes. I was taught that in AA. Actually, in AA and NA, Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, they start and end every single meeting with a hug, whether you know them or not, whether they're new or whatever. You start getting more familiar with hugs. But anyway, when you touch someone so gently on the forearm, they may or may not notice it, but you've now physically made connection and touch with them. And you've now built an element of safety because you've entered that space and there hasn't been any physical harm. Therefore, it's kind of, you've ticked that box. Okay, this person is in my space and touching me, and it's okay, but it's important for it to be a very light, oh, hey, nice to meet you, just a little, that's it. If you, put your arm around, way too much. But there's a lot of power in certain things, like also a handshake. You could watch a whole 2-hour presentation about handshakes. But If you shake someone's hand and you shake it with grip, obviously you're showing that you're powerful. If you do it loose, you're showing that you're probably quite placid, or maybe you're playing that character for a certain need. If you grab their hand on the other hand, you're essentially trapping them and telling them, I've got you and I'm in control. If you look at Donald Trump's handshake, it's bizarre. Google Donald Trump's handshake. He literally grabs your hand and pulls it towards him, no matter if they're Vladimir Putin or anybody, he will pull their hand right in to basically say, like, I'm showing you aggression from day one. I'm not scared whatsoever. So anyway, the touch on the thing is one. Another one is find commonalities. In fact, one of the first signs that you're in love with somebody is if you start to notice things that you have in common. And it's actually more superficial. You're more like, oh my God, I like that as well. And it's actually one of the signs of love when you find things that you have mutually in common with somebody. And you can, I guess, mimic that or exaggerate that to your advantage. So when somebody shares something, you can give them the, oh my God, I love that as well. And then you can go into talking about that and bang, you're gonna build rapport because you have a mutual interest. Someone might say they love Harry Potter and you go, oh my God, me too. I can't wait to go to the West End to see The Cursed Child. It's the one I haven't seen. I'm just so excited about it. And they go, oh my God, me too. I can't wait to see that one. Right? That's an example of building rapport. You know, finding some mutual interests where you can share so that, you know, you can see that you can become good friends. Another thing you can do is you can mimic body language in a very subtle way. And you actually find that children do this because they respect and admire their parents to the point where they want to be like them. So you would see the cute kid, you know, pretending to be his dad or pretending to be his mum, or you know, if his dad, you know, is sitting there like that, maybe he'll look at his dad and go as well, because he's thinking, I want to be like that, and also I want my dad to love me, and I want to build rapport with my dad on an unconscious level. He's thinking, how can I show him that I am like him? And how can he love me more and meet my needs more? Just because they're children doesn't mean they don't have these needs. And they might not be cognitively aware of them, but they're still there in the subconscious. And actually more so in our younger years, because it's our most crucial time of us developing our character and learning how the world works. So children are actually very good at this, which is why we find them very cute. They could be talking like that, and you could literally go back to talk like that as well. And they could, you know, lean back, and just, you know, after a few seconds, you could actually lean back as well. And they won't notice it. The key is not to be noticed doing this, but they get this felt sense that this person is like them. You know, they feel comfortable around them, you know. Say, for example, you know, the person was like that, like you were there like that the whole time, and the other person's like this and like this. You're gonna look like a very stiff, regimented, boxed off person, whereas they're very open and flowy. So there's a disconnect between you and them. So you've got to replicate the openly and flowiness that they're showing you by mimicking what they do. Or you might know this personality type, and you might be able to mimic body language in a way they haven't shown yet, but you know they're the sort of person that might do it. So if they're shy, timid, you might find that they cover their mouth when they laugh, right? This is what a lot of people do. They don't want to show their laugh. They're worried about what people might think of their smile. So when you say something funny, you might go, you know, because you know that that's something that they would do. Now that's really advanced because you're understanding who's in front of you and you're understanding the type of person that they are. And you're not just mimicking them, but you're anticipating the type of behavior and the type of body language they might display, and you do it before they even do it. And they just feel comfortable around you. Now, this is expert level stuff I'm about to share with you now. When a baby is born, a baby can find it very easy to fall asleep by being close to its mother's heart and falling in alignment with the rhythm of breath and the heartbeat, to the point where it softly sends them off to sleep. And that also builds rapport and connection. So this one's quite difficult, but you can actually begin to breathe at the same breathing rhythm that they are. If you're talking like this and you're up and down, then you're already manic and it's way out of proportion to someone who's obviously very slow, very grounded. But even if you're on the same wavelength, you might find that they're breathing and then you're breathing the opposite time and something feels out of sync. So if you can get to the point where you see their rhythm, because it's not hard, their chest is expanding and their chest is retracting. If you can start to breathe in sync with the person that's in front of you, you are becoming a mirror of this person. Another one you could use is showing them that you are interested. And this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. Showing them that you are interested, not just in the questions that you ask, but the body language that you use. So if you lean in, you're essentially saying, I want to be closer to you, and I want to learn more, and I want to be more intimate with you. So leaning into the conversation rather than leaning back could be a way of making them feel like you care more. And here's also, because we're much further along the conversation now, where you start to repeat back some of the things that you learned in the previous conversations. So the things that they said, you start to bring that up. Maybe you even ask more questions. And you might say, I was really interested what you said right at the beginning of the conversation about X, Y, and Z. And I just wanted to know, like, how does that make you feel? Because I've had a similar time where I felt, and then you list off the emotions. Now what you're doing now is you're doing so many things. You're showing them that you've listened to them. You're showing them that you care. You're leaning in to show that you are ready for a more intimate conversation. And you are also asking questions that are below the surface that are more intrinsic within a person, such as their emotions and their feelings, which can evoke an emotional response. So if they start to talk about emotional things rather than logical things, they're essentially opening up an entire new part of themselves to you on a very intimate level. And you've got to be careful in the way that you do this. If you're in a coaching session, of course, it's completely fine. If you're in a coffee shop and there's people around, you of course want to play this one quite gently so they don't feel intimidated by the people around them. And of course, always use this stuff for good. Don't use this stuff for bad. There'll be people that watch this video and go, wow, that manipulative son of a I wondered how he kept on making all that money. He's been, or you could think, oh wow, he's actually, understands people and can make people feel good by learning ways to build rapport, trust and connection with people so that he can make them feel more comfortable and more open and more receptive to sharing more intimate parts of their life with them. And that's a big major component of becoming a great coach. Having the trust there so that you can dig below the soil and find what's really at the root of these issues. And you're not going to do that if there's no rapport there. When I went into rehab, I was convinced that I couldn't trust anybody. I thought, if I can't, I had a bad upbringing with my mum and dad, and I was thinking, if my mum and dad treated me a certain way, there's no way any of you lot care. And I had my arms crossed and I wasn't going to let any of them help me. But there was this one particular woman who built a rapport, and she probably did it naturally. I doubt she was consciously doing these things, or maybe she'd done a class on it. I built rapport with her. It was a natural felt sense. It wasn't a logical thing. It wasn't, oh, she made good eye contact with me. Oh, she led it into the conversation. It was simply just, for some reason, I trust this one out of all the others. And she was the one that was able to get the conversation out of me that made me cry my fucking eyes out like a little baby and have one of the biggest breakthroughs in my life. Rapport is essential and meant for good, not meant for manipulation. But you can also influence people for good. For example, I've got a coaching program, i.e. we train people to become coaches, but I've got a program that teaches coaches how to become life coaches. And I know that that program is going to change their own life. It's going to change people around them's life. It's going to change their clients' lives. And it's going to change their life because they're going to not just think and feel better, but they're just going to have this online business and just everything's going to be amazing. They're going to be living in Bali, or they're going to be quitting their job, and everything's going to be great. And I know that this is what they need. I'm living proof that it's better than what they've got. So if I don't use these techniques, then I'm doing them a disservice because I'm not using my full power and capability to be able to influence this person to make the right decision for them in their life. And some people are at a position in their life where they're not in a good, stable position to make the right decisions for themselves. And they need some persuasion, and they need some influencing from positive people that care about them, that want to see the best out of them. If you are using these techniques for good, then use them. If you're using them for bad, don't. It's as simple as that. But I'll give you one more before we finish. All right, I'm going to give you two, because we're talking about the end of the conversation now. One of them is make sure you're giving them compliments throughout. Everybody loves to be complimented and empowered and to feel good. So if you like something they're wearing, tell them something that you like about what they're wearing. Oh, I love your trainers. Where did you get them from? They'll love that. And that will boost their self-esteem straight away. If someone says something really powerful, say, sorry, I just messed up with that. What you just said there was really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to remember that one. And you make them feel significant. And you meet their needs. And that's actually another way of building rapport, meet their needs. Everybody has a certain set of needs, and every need is different. Every person's needs are different. So if we can meet those needs through a conversation, you find that you are the person they've been looking for. This could be in a relationship or a business partnership or something else. But the last one I want to leave you on is something that would happen at the end of the conversation. And just tell them how much you enjoyed the conversation. Tell them the things that you liked. Give them the compliments again. Say, I just want to thank you for being so open today and sharing those things with me. What you shared was some really powerful stuff and some deep stuff as well. I really appreciate your openness to share that with me. And I just loved our conversation. It just flew, like 2 hours have just gone past like that. So I've loved it, all right? So leave it on that. And also, leave it with a willingness to continue that relationship. Be the person that says, I'd love to do this again sometime, or I would love to take you out for dinner, or there's this conference that's happening next week that I don't suppose you're free, or let's connect online. I'd love to continue this conversation another time. Show them that this hasn't just been a superficial conversation. Bridge that into you showing that you're actively open to continue and building that relationship. Because it makes it very easy for the other person, because they might be shy and insecure and embarrassed and not be willing to say that. And then that conversation might come to an end. But if you're the one that's brave enough to be the person who says, I've really enjoyed this conversation, I'd love to pick this up another time, here's some scenarios in which we could do it, and you've done your good job of building the rapport throughout the conversation, then they're going to say yes, and then you've started off this relationship, and that relationship will continue to blossom if you continue caring about that person and showing empathy for that person and showing them that you're listening. And mimicking sounds negative, isn't it? Or balancing their body language and personality type. I think it's probably a better way of looking at it. If they're a, yeah, let's go do this kind of thing, man, then you've got to be like that. If they're a really quiet, kind of laid back sort of person like that, then be a bit like that. But at the same time, life is a big contradiction. Because at the same time, I'll probably deliver another video and I'll say, be authentically you. And there is this other polarizing part of the conversation where sometimes people look for the parts of themselves that are missing, especially in a relationship. You know, they might want to be brave, bold, loud, fearless, and don't have those things and therefore admire them in others. So nothing is linear, nothing is black and white, nothing is, this is always going to be the scenario. You have to understand somebody. The only way you can do that is by asking questions and getting to know them. And you'll find what works. You might find that the mimicking or the balancing of emotions and body language and language is not working because you can feel their resistance or you can feel them starting to close off. You've got to be aware of that. Then you might say, do you know what, I'm going to be more openly expressive and more me and more authentic and see if that resonates more with them. After a while, this stuff becomes not things you think about. There's not once over the last few years I've sat down and I've made sure I've got my tick list of how to do all these things. But sometimes I'll naturally find myself doing it. We become unconsciously competent, where we're competent enough where we don't even realize we're doing it. And you'll know what to do in the right scenario. There might be a time where being you is important and not being them. It might be a time where coming down to their level and bringing your energy down makes them feel more comfortable. It might be a time where bringing your energy up to match theirs makes them feel they're around people that they get on with. It's a difficult thing. It's not like, you can't find answers on YouTube of how the human brain works. It's very complex and some contradict one another. But I hope you've taken some things from this and I hope you've realized that life is just a massive, massive, complex set of contradictions. And if you can learn to synchronize some of those contradictions and still allow it to benefit you, a bit like this, you're going to be in a good place. And the way to do that is by absorbing as much knowledge as you can in different areas and piecing it together and using the right things at the right time. So this is something that can help you in your coaching career. This is something that can help you build a business. This can also help you find friends all round to be a more popular and sociable person. Full disclaimer, I don't do anything. I'm quite an introvert. I rarely go out and make those connections. And if I do, it's online, so it's more difficult to do that. But these are still things I know, and I have applied these in the past and they've worked. So give some of them a try, or at least one of them a try. And if one of those things works, even just a little bit, you're going to be in a better place than you was before. I hope that helped.